Dom,
Hey Mike, what's up?
how you doing, man? We've got
I'm doing
another.
pretty good. It's been a mellow week.
Yeah, it has. Before we get too far going, I just want to say, um, sad to bring it up, but David Lynch, rest in peace, man. And that's a sad news today. But David Lynch has died, and it's
Yeah, that was crazy.
yeah. I mean, he was relatively young for what people, but I mean, I know what people die at all ages, but emphysema took him out, and so anybody out there, give up those cigarettes, man. They're not worth it. But easier said than done, right? But um, but yeah, David Lynch will be sorely missed. I love his movies, so I just had to say that at the start. But Dom, you want to? This is your pick for a
Yeah,
movie.
we'd be doing a David Lynch movie right now if I had
Yeah.
known.
Well, we are next week, so I'll talk about that more as we go along, but that's one of the reasons why I opened with
Okay,
that.
okay, good, good.
Yes. But go
But
ahead and
but for
introduce
this
this.
week,
Yep.
we are doing we are doing Kingsman, The Secret Service. It is a spy movie. This movie came about because the the writer and the director. The writer is Mark Millar. If you don't know that name, I will go on more about him because he's a thing. And Matthew Vaughn is the director. And evidently, they were sitting in a bar reminiscing about the old Bond movies and saying spy movies just aren't fun these days. They're 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 serious, they're slow, they're somewhat depressing, and they wanted to call back to the time like back in the 60s when spy movies were fun. And
And
so
and they were back
this
then.
movie follows. Oh, they were. They were part comedy to be sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there was always comedy in a good Bond movie. There was always comedy.
But yeah, so that guy behind you is
Yeah.
Eggsy,
Yes.
otherwise known as Gary Unwin. And he is growing up in London. He's somewhat lower class,
Yeah.
grown up with a single mom and a half sister. Um, and his mom is dating some idiot of a guy. So
Yeah.
some less than desirable human.
Yeah. Yeah, for
And so
sure.
he's not happy. He's somewhat rebellious, and that rebelliousness gets him thrown in jail.
Well, let's face it, he's a punk.
Right, exactly. Or since he's English, he's a shav.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but evidently that is the term.
Right. Right.
So
Well,
unbeknownst to him, his late father was an elite spy who died in the service of his country. And as such, Eggsy was given a medallion with a phone number to call if he ever got into trouble. And, when you're thrown in jail, that's a good time to use your lifeline.
yeah. Yeah.
He,
If you're
he does, and he's introduced to this elite spy network called the Kingsmen. And he goes to the training, becomes a Kingsman himself, and if you've seen spy movies, ultimately saves the world.
right. Right. From from this gentleman behind us.
From that guy, Richmond Valentine,
And brilliantly played by Samuel L. Jackson. And
brilliantly played. Samuel L. Jackson, when he was approached with this role, he jumped at the chance because evidently it was his lifelong dream to be in a James Bond movie.
yeah, yeah. Which
And when
who
he heard
knew?
about this role, he figured this was his only chance.
Yeah.
And so, being a Bond villain, not too bad.
No, no, not at all. And you know, the movie's not perfect,
No,
but it's damn good and it's a lot of fun. And that's what I will say is not perfect, but I'll tell you what, it's a lot of fun. It's good for repeat watches. It's got a great cast, um, and a wonderful plot, because it's um it's not even something that, like, sometimes when you see like a supervillain in a movie like this, you think to yourself, oh man, you're gonna be going through a lot of torture and all that. With this one, he's a fun villain. I mean, he's a bad guy for
He's a
sure.
fun villain and he's somewhat sympathetic. Like, let's face it, if you believe in climate change,
Yeah,
if you accept that is going on and that it is driven by human activity,
yeah,
then there's a lot of people that wish they could have some influence on that. They could have some effect.
yeah,
And while you would prefer certain regulations to be in place, certain social conditioning to be in place to have us all consume less, be more careful about the energy that we use, where we get our food, etc., and so on. We would love to take action to make a better world for everyone.
yeah.
And this villain is doing just that. He's just using evil ways to go about it.
Right, right. Yeah, to force it on everyone, and he's doing it by actually eliminating half the human race is what he's doing.
He's doing a Thanos.
Yeah, yeah. So the and I actually watched a couple of interviews with him talking about this movie, and one of the things that he did was he gave the villain a lisp, and it's a very humorous lisp when you're watching the movie, because it's, I mean, it's Samuel L. Jackson made himself probably more vulnerable and lovable by giving himself that lisp, because it was something of a,
Oh,
a
he
fault.
was a hilarious villain. Couldn't stand the sight of blood. Yeah, like was going to kill half the human race, but actually hated violence.
Yeah, yeah, and kind of loved his animals too. Too. But yes, so there's a lot of humor, and Samuel L. Jackson himself said, when he was talking about the role and giving the villain the lisp, he said, "I grew up with a stutter,"
Mhm.
and he said, "I had to overcome that," and he said, "I know how hard that stutter is to overcome," but he did feel like that this particular guy would have some kind of thing that maybe made him like a little bit of a standout, and also a problematic too. I mean, if you think about it, a lot of people that have become not just famous, but also people of renown, a lot of times they've had something that they had to overcome, whether it was even poverty, or whether it was something, there's something to overcome. And I think with this character, that was a kind of a brilliant thing that Samuel L. Jackson did, was he gave this guy this thing, and it was like, it would make me laugh at different parts when he's talking to someone or threatening someone, and at the same time, it's, like I said, it made him human, so I just had to say that that to me was a nice touch, Sam. That was good job there. A great job with the whole entire role there.
It's funny. This is another movie that took me by surprise. When I stumbled across this, I had never heard of this before. It was in the theaters. I had never heard of this before. And I'm not sure where it was advertised. It came out in 2014, and I certainly wasn't watching television at that
Yep.
time. I was doing everything over streaming. Um, so I'm not sure where I would have seen an ad. But again, I stumbled across the Kingsman, looked interesting, watched it sight unseen, and wow, like this was just an amazing roller coaster of a movie.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, terrific, and again, like when you actually tossed it out there to me, telling me, "Oh, that's my pick," I had to think for a second, like, okay, wait a minute, I know that. What is it? And actually, funnily enough, you were saying, well, I'm not sure just where it is we can view it. Um, happened to take a quick look, and darned if Voodoo Fandango, if you want to call it that silly name, but um, but darned if they didn't have a sale going on pretty much every one of their movies, which for people who are curious about the movie and haven't seen it, it's on sale right now for $5. Not that we're hyping Voodoo Fandango, but at the same time, it is a great way to watch, and I own a lot of films on it, and it's definitely been something good for me for building my collection on. So it is on sale if you're looking to pick it up. That's a great way. It's as probably as cost effective as a rental would be a lot of times. So $5, you own it,
I was actually kind of surprised you didn't already have it.
Well, to tell you the truth, I think the only reason I didn't, I think I had been saying it, probably like $15 or something, and I kept saying, "Oh, I'll wait until it goes on sale." And like I said, darned if the only one I don't have now, I think is the prequel.
The King's Man.
Yes, and I don't
Yeah,
think.
I haven't seen that even.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it could be okay. I have no idea. I don't want to
I,
speculate.
I almost chose the sequel, The Kingsman, The Golden Circle,
Yeah,
mainly because it has Pedro Pascal, whom I love. And
and Kurt Russell and a few
I
others
think
too.
that sequel is every bit as good as this first one, but
Yeah.
I felt that I had to choose the first one before I chose the sequel.
Yeah, when you're introducing either yourself or others to, I mean, you got to go with the first one, and
Right.
but it's funny because I'll sometimes if I'm you know me, I'm a purist when it comes to film, and if a movie, and I'm going to give you an example, the movie True Grit. I love both versions. There was the
They're
original
both
remake,
good.
the original film with John Wayne, Glenn Campbell, and Kim Darby. I love the movie. It's got a lot of nostalgia for me. I remember growing up watching it, seeing it with my dad sometimes. It was, it has nostalgia for me. And then darn if the Coen brothers don't come out with True Grit with Jeff Bridges as the Rooster Cogburn role. And I'm not trying to get off from this movie here. I'm just saying that's a movie that the sequel, when I watched the sequel, I was like, oh my God, this is fantastic. They did a complete tribute to the original. They did it true to the book. It's a fun movie. I've been wanting to do True Grit, but I've been tortured. Which one should I do? I
Hmm.
almost picked the sequel, or the not the sequel, but the remake because it's so good. And I hate to. I'm not taking away from the John Wayne one. I love
No,
that
it's a
one
tough
too.
choice. They're
It's
both like right on the level.
Yeah, and Jeff Bridges is just unfriggable. I mean, everybody is in that movie. Everybody's so good. But just saying, sometimes um, either a remake or a sequel can be as good or better than the original. So I haven't seen the sequel for this one yet, and so I
This is a movie where I don't mind you getting off track because this movie is hard to talk about. I love this movie. I love watching this movie. Again, it's a roller coaster ride, but you're right. This movie is far from perfect. It's actually a hot mess. It's not a great movie, but it has the one thing that I love. It is fun. It is one
it
of the
is.
funnest movies I've ever seen.
It is, and that is something I'm very critical of movies that try to play around with a James Bond style. I think Mike Myers did it terrifically with the Austin Powers stuff because he spoofed it and he spoofed it wonderfully. He pulled in not only James Bond but also the R. Man Flint movies and all these different.
Well, that's the
Uh,
thing. Like a lot of people don't realize, Bond has endured to the present day, but
yeah.
a lot of people don't realize how obsessed the 60s were with spies.
Oh, absolutely.
You have our man Flint, Dean Martin
Yeah.
played
Yeah. Yeah.
a
Matt
spy
Helm and
series. It was just crazy.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. there were so many there were so many characters that were created because of spy stuff. And then there was
Hmm.
the TV series. There was everything from I Spy to The
Mission
End of Uncle.
Impossible,
Yeah, Mission Impossible. Absolutely. Yeah. No, there
Danger
was.
Man.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, you go on and on. It was just there were so many, terrific spy things. And hey, I grew up as a kid. I mean, I was born in '59, and I grew up as a kid playing with spy toys. That's what would come out all the time. I had a toy called Six Finger, and it was like nobody could see my hand, but it was shaped like a another finger, like your index finger, and you would put it in your hand, and you actually loaded hey, we play with dangerous toys back then. I had a little missile I could push into the end of the finger, and you'd hold it out and you'd point it at somebody, hopefully in their eye,
Hmm.
and you'd shoot this thing, and a plastic spring-loaded missile would, would come shooting out of the finger. And look it up on YouTube. You'll find it, Six Finger. But I had that. I had a radio that turned into a gun. I mean, I had all these like cool toys that were from spy movies or inspired by them. And then there was, and this is something talking about this movie, but this movie definitely paid tribute to the Avengers.
Oh yeah.
And my God, all I could think of was John Steed with his cane and his bowler hat and the suits. He always was impeccably dressed. I mean, as is Bond and all the others, but the English wear suits and they wear them well. And you can say what you want, but I mean, I think women probably really appreciate men in suits. I hate wearing them. I don't own one right now, but there's something to be said for a nicely cut suit and dressing
Well,
well.
well, this guy, I mean, Colin Firth,
Yes,
he made the ultimate gentleman spy.
yeah,
The scene behind me where they're in the pub and like those street toughs start harassing them,
that's a great
and he
scene.
gets up and goes and locks the door.
Yeah.
Like that was a fantastic intro to his character.
Well, it's funny because I've been wanting us to do a Western really badly, and I keep getting like distracted from that. And I just watched a scene. I might have even sent you the clip, but I just watched a scene from The Outlaw Josie Wales, and I love the scenes where the good guy comes into a place and there's a bunch of toughs in there that decide they're going to ride this guy or kill him or whatever, and the guy turns the tables on him, and he does it so well in this when he goes and locks the door because it's right out of a classic western or any fight scene movie, the old saloon fight or whatever, and he does it with complete dignity and basically rips these guys to
Dignity and calm.
shreds.
Like he knows he's got this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's completely confident in what he's got to give to these guys, and believe me, none of them are prepared for what he brings to the table. So
Yep. And this is what he brings to the table. When I saw this scene, the first time I saw this church fight scene,
yeah.
I was like riveted. I was like, oh my God.
Well, the one thing I did have to say when I saw that scene, my first thought was he's not going to live because there is no way that he could, because as much as it was not his fault, because for anyone who's watching us talking about this now, and if you haven't seen the movie, um, Samuel L. Jackson's character, I can't think of the guy's name right now, but
Valentine.
yes, Valentine, he has created this thing that and he's given out SIM cards to everybody. The SIM cards in order for everyone to have cell service, kind of like an Elon Musk thing with
Oh,
Starlink.
it was totally an Elon Musk thing.
Yeah, it's hysterical. Except this one's actually designed. Hopefully, Elon hasn't done that to us, but
Well,
it's
he ain't
designed.
giving anything for free.
Well, he has given it for free to. I mean, he's given it to California right now. He's done it to for Ukraine. He's done it a few times, but no, nothing. There is no free lunch. I don't. I don't believe. But in this scene here, everybody's got these SIM cards that he's given out free, and he walks into this church, and everybody has gone mad, and the frequency that it's putting off is actually affecting everyone within the range. So he gets affected, and it turns into a rage thing where everyone's, and he, of course, he is trying to defend himself, but at the same time, he's in this rage himself. And by the time everything's done, everybody in the church is dead except him, which is,
One of the criticisms of this movie, and it's completely deserved. This
yeah,
is an ultra violent movie.
it is,
It,
but I don't have any problem with
I don't have any problem with it
Yeah,
either.
yeah, I got,
But it's done. It's fun. It's done tongue in cheek. But if anyone has any aversion to violence, this
yeah.
is an ultra violent movie.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. If you're, but I mean, then again, if you're at all into spy movies, action movies, one thing that you probably should know about those movies, if you don't already, that you're usually going to see some kind of violence, and it depends on the movie. Sometimes it's worse in certain movies, and sometimes it's over the top. Uh,
I can't think of a single James Bond movie that comes close
to the
to the
violence in this.
violence in this
Yeah,
movie.
yeah. I mean, absolutely. I totally agree with you there. It's over the top and certain, but then again, um, there's like I would say the church scene is probably the worst as far as like violence towards people. There's a lot of people dying, but actually, if you think about it, like if the big problem you have is gore and violence, there is not much gore at all in
And
this.
there's hardly any gore.
And in fact, one of the more hysterical parts of this movie that I really made me laugh out loud was one of
Hmm.
it was probably one of the Samuel L. Jackson's character, probably one of the more ill thought out things that for the villain, not for the movie. Um, he, in order for him to keep his henchmen and his followers under control, he made a slit in all of their necks, and he inserted this thing, which was both a tracking device. I don't know if it was a listening device, but it was a multi-purpose device which also contained a bomb. And you did not want to have him set off the bomb. But one of the problems with doing something like that is there's always hackers, and there's
Yep.
anything that you can control, you can also somebody else can control. And so and in this scene here, and it's probably one of the more hysterical parts of the movie, but the hero of the movie, the kid, he's actually trying to stop Samuel L. Jackson, who has his hands on a control that's actually causing the because they've already hacked into the guy's system, but he's manually overriding it by keeping his hands on this like handprint control that's causing chaos all over the world. So people are going to be killing each other, and they've got to stop him. And in the midst of that, they also set off the remote control bombs in all of the bad people's heads, which are all his guards, the people following him, anybody that's under his control. Their heads are going bang, and it's like fireworks. It's
It,
hysterical.
evidently, the director, Vaughn,
Yeah,
went to a few different special effects companies to create the exploding heads.
yeah,
And the first few were like these bloody, gory things. And he's like, no, 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 I don't want that.
yeah.
And so he finally found this company that would make it look like fireworks. And
It
he's like,
was
okay, that's what I'm going
it was
with.
brilliant. It was absolutely
It
brilliant.
really was.
It made the movie, instead of having these exploding bloody heads, which just would have been gross, and blood all over all the characters and everything. instead of having that happen, to have this, it was such a parody of what was going on that it made it fun rather than something just sick and violent. So as much as I have to agree with you, yes, it's very violent. At the same time, the violence is not done. And for anybody that's watching that, if you're worried about that part of it, it's at least five. Oh, she was terrific. She was absolutely and scary as hell with those razor feet that she had. My God, she just split someone in half.
So
So
this is Sophia Boutella.
yes,
She is a French rhythmic gymnast
really,
known for her dancing. She was on the French Olympics gymnastics team.
wow, didn't know that. That's cool.
Known for her dancing, has been in a ton of music videos
Right.
for it, and is becoming an action star in her own right. She was in Star Trek Beyond. She was an Atomic Blonde. I don't know if you've seen that movie.
I cannot remember. It's been so long. The name is very well known to me. I'd have to actually look it up. I know I'm very familiar with the name, and I can't. I didn't know she was an Atomic Blonde either. So that's
Yeah, that
that's
that movie is amazing. But yeah, she's been really making a name for herself as an action hero. The one thing that I researched and I still did not find a great answer for is why they gave her these blades for feet. When I first saw this, I thought she really was handicapped and had these
really,
prosthetic legs.
yeah,
But I looked into it. She's a completely normal athlete. I
yeah.
mean, she's an elite athlete, but she has normal feet.
Well, the first thing when I saw this, the first thing I saw or thought of was Pistorius. I can't think of his.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, that
Blade
was the
Runner.
first thing I thought because he was I think they called him Blade Runner, and so that might have been the inspiration for it. But but he actually killed his girlfriend in a rage and did time in prison for it. And his claim, and it helped to get him out of jail early because, I mean, she wasn't around to say otherwise, and they couldn't prove it. He claimed that he accidentally shot through the door, thinking it was an intruder, somebody breaking in, and which to me is complete and utter bullshit. Everybody heard them fighting. I believe he just had a bad rage. She locked herself in the bathroom, and he decided he was going to shoot through the bathroom door, and I believe he willfully killed her. But he had those same kind of blades, and a lot of people had a real problem with him participating in the Olympics because he was running on blades that were spring power. And
Hmm.
so, granted, on the one hand, yes, he's handicapped, um, but at the same time, if there's if you listen, if they can give you bionic legs that make you run like the $6 million man, you got a little bit of an advantage over,
Yeah, yeah.
but this I definitely thought of him when I saw her, and she was a terrific villain.
She was fantastic.
She definitely helped to make this movie as his evil aide that was willing to carry out, and she, believe me, she had zero problems carrying out executions. So yeah, like I said, I definitely loved her. Now here's another thing: these this the clothes they're wearing. This is the group that they're in a contest to see who, and they're all going to be eliminated except for one person. That one person is going to be the new the new Kingsman, and to replace one that has died. And the suits that they are wearing behind you. Are you familiar with the name of those suits?
Yeah, the swan suits.
Well, they go by different names. I'm familiar with them as either siren suits or
Oh,
boiler
you're right.
suits.
Siren suits. That's it.
Yeah, siren suits or boiler suits, but they do have different names. I mean, they are basically just coveralls, but they became popular because those suits. I've seen those suits in and they've actually turned them into something of a fashion, suit that people wear sometimes. And I always thought to myself, I know where those came from, and they didn't look like that, and they didn't wear like that, and they weren't considered fashionable. So I did look them up, and I do remember that's Winston Churchill on the side there, and he is wearing one. And Winston Churchill was very fond of those suits. So yeah, that's actually kind of humorous. But they did feature them in this movie. So
Mhm.
so
This
just
scene
something I had
behind
to point
me.
out. Yes, this scene was great, by the way. I
So
love
this scene was fantastic. These guys are all training together as a group.
yes.
They go to sleep in this dormitory-like room one night, and the room just starts filling up with water, and they have to survive and escape.
Yeah,
But when this was first filmed, something went wrong.
really.
And the mechanism that was supposed to release the water released all the water.
Oh,
So everyone was underwater. Cameramen, sound crew,
wow.
everyone
Wow.
automatically underwater.
Yeah, that's not good.
No, it was not good.
That's not good at all, actually. Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy. And that's the other thing. Inevitably, and of course, that's part of the lesson that they were even trying to teach them, and that was, you'll work better if you're actually trying to work together
Hmm.
instead of everybody going off on their own. And it's a funny thing because the mentality is, well, we're compete. It's kind of like they do with these like survival shows where they put a bunch of people on an island or something. On the one hand, it's like survival of the fittest, and you kind of almost have to be devious and kind of an asshole to win. And but at the same time, there's times we have to work together. None of them. It's a whole bunch of people in a room all trying to. Well, I shouldn't say none of them didn't work together, but one guy decides to use the toilet as a means of pushing hose down so you can, which is actually a real thing. Uh,
Hmm.
but but as far as they all did the probably the most intelligent for the moment, they got themselves able to breathe. However, they also had to escape, and of course, Eggsy takes it upon himself that he's going to break out of the room, and he does completely opposite of what they're doing. He goes into offensive role, and he breaks the glass and gets them out of the movie, or out of the room. But yes, it's you know not exactly working together. And the other thing was the you see there's four Kingsmen right there, and the girl actually they ended up having both of them survive, which I thought was a cool choice. Um, but she actually becomes the new Kingsman, and he actually flunks out, and he does it because they give them both or all of them a dog, and at first he's very disappointed with his dog because he thinks he thinks it's an English bulldog, I believe, and they tell him no, that's a little pug, and he's like, well, is it gonna grow? And they're like, nope. That was hysterical. And then they tell him, okay, you could be a Kingsman, but you got to shoot that dog. And he looks at the dog and he's like, I'm not doing it. So he fails. And in the other room, you hear bang. And so she did. She shot the dog. However, they weren't really going to kill the dog. So they actually put blanks in the gun. But she was perfectly willing to do it to get into to be a Kingsman. And they tell him, yeah, you've screwed up. You're out.
Yeah,
And
that was actually based on a real thing. I can't remember if it was like Nazi training or Spetsnaz or someone, but there was actually
yeah,
a training regimen where that was done.
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised because there is, depending on what you're doing, uh, if you're if you're in a situation where you've got to make that choice, um, you gotta do what you gotta do to survive and there's times where you might be asked to do something, I mean, people that work in the CIA, I mean, or whatever the organization is, if it's a organization that may be working nefariously, let's face it, there are times where those guys get told or expected to do something. And sometimes it's not going to be a choice that the average person maybe is going to want to make. So, I mean, and I'd probably have a hard time myself because I am fully capable if I'm defending someone I love or defending myself in a life or death situation, I know I'm fully capable of defending myself or others, but it's another thing to go on the offensive and just like look at someone and go bang and shoot them. That's another frame of mind. And I'm not saying that a lot of people couldn't get into that, but uh, it's not something that I would normally be capable of doing. I'm not the killer. I'm the guy that's gonna I'll kill if you put me in a situation where I have to, but I'm not just gonna offensively go after someone. And I don't even understand that mentality. But um, by the way, was this based on a comic?
Yes.
Because that was one of the things that, yeah, and I have a shot very similar, if not the same one, but it was based on a graphic novel or
Yeah, so this is part of the Millarverse. Mark Millar is a comic book writer. He's been writing for a number of different titles. I know he did a number of the Avengers, the Ultimate Avengers. I can't remember all the normal titles he's worked on,
yeah.
but I can remember seeing Wanted with Angelina Jolie as a movie. I've got almost all the Kick-Ass comic books in
Oh
addition to
yeah,
seeing
yeah,
the movie.
yeah.
I haven't read any of the Kingsman comic books, but yeah, it was first a comic book. And man, this guy Millar has just gone off with his success at turning comic book stories into movies and television shows.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, like Kick Ass, that's another one because I've thought to myself, we're gonna have to do Kick Ass at some point.
Yep.
That was terrific and I loved it. Um, Another thing that actually like well you were just talking about that. I posted this picture up on the behind me, and it made me think. That was another thing about Samuel L. Jackson in this movie. I love the outfits that he's wearing.
Yeah.
He, his outfits are funny, and he's doing when he invites. It's Colin Farrell, right? Yeah, when he invites him to dinner,
Oh,
he's
Colin Firth.
oh yes, yes, Firth. Not why am I saying Colin Farrell? Yes, he invites him to dinner, and he's like, what would you like, Big Mac or a quarter pounder? He's serving McDonald's, and and um, and that was another humorous thing because the things that he liked, he was kind of just almost like just a regular guy in some ways, and yet so much
Well,
worse.
I mean, they made them diametric opposites. You've got Colin Firth, you've got the Kingsmen who are these upright, polite gentlemen. They wear suits. They follow very specific etiquette. Samuel L. Jackson character Valentine, he's pure hipster.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
He dresses hipster. He's got hipster mentalities. He's trying to bring back Big Macs as cool again
yeah, yeah.
as hot cuisine. So he was a great character, but they did a good job of making them so opposite.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's like I said, the way that they the way that they played humor into this movie just made
Hmm.
it. And that's actually that scene there was both tense and humorous at the same time. he takes the young kid Eggsy to get his first suit, and that's the other thing is all the Kingsmen impeccably dressed with great cuts of Oxfords, not brogues,
Yep.
although that's a dress choice depending on the occasion. But anyway, he takes him in to have his first suit made into a very exclusive London tailor. And who should they meet in there? But Samuel L. Jackson, Valentine. And they're like, awkward moment. And uh, they make the introduction here.
So
But
that's an actual store.
yeah, I thought I heard something about that. Is it as exclusive as it
I
appeared to be?
I don't know about that. I think it's definitely upscale. It's not
Yeah,
something I'm going to be spending money at
yeah,
anytime soon, but
yeah.
it's an actual store. If you go to it, from what I hear, in the window, you can see a Kingsman symbol
Oh, wow.
down in
Wow.
one of the corners. And if you walk inside and go back to where the secret room was,
Yes.
there's a photo of Colin Firth in that suit, like holding a
Ex
martini or something.
yeah, yeah. Excellent. Well, I mean, you'd almost, if you're going to use the store that extensively, you almost want to have suits purchased from the store, you know. But I'm sure they're probably a terrific tailor. So I have no idea what the real name of the store is. I don't know if you do offhand, but
I
and this
did. I can't remember it.
this was another scene, the one behind me there with him showing him, and this was also very much a throwback to the James Bond movies, where what's the name of the guy in the James Bond movie, the
Q?
scientist?
Q.
What's that?
Q.
Q, yes, Q. Q would always introduce, and I love that with to me, that's a staple of the movies where Q brings out the latest gadgets for Bond to use during the movie. And sure enough, they will be used at different times in the movie. And it was always, whether it was an exploding pen or whatever, whatever it was, um, there was always these cool gadgets. And it's funny because some of the gadgets that look so super, super high tech back in the day, back in the 60s when they first started really making Bond movies. Now they're not even that high tech anymore. You look at them, you think, yeah, that's no big deal. But it's like, well, yes, it's a miniature, it's a miniature camera. And it's like, yeah, well, those are everywhere
I
now.
mean, when you think of the capability of your average smartphone right now,
Yeah.
like that science fiction 20 years ago.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. You never would have believed. I mean, I remember seeing the Dick Tracy watch when whether you were looking at it in the comics or in a something on TV or whatever, and Dick Tracy with his watch that you could speak to and you could, well, we have that now, I mean,
Well, I
there's
mean,
more than,
smart glasses.
oh my God, yeah, the smart glasses are, well, there's so much tech that's just, it's advanced so quickly. And I mean, yeah, that's a lot of years from the 60s, but to now. But at the same time, it's still the incredible progress that we've made in miniaturization. It's it's incredible what we have at our hands. And yes, I mean, I proudly own an iPhone, and the as far as the iPhone goes, that I'm carrying around something that's way more powerful than what put the first men in the moon. And yes, men
Hmm.
did get to the moon. So for anyone that doesn't believe that, you're nuts. So I'm just gonna say, we have been to the moon before. So let's, come on. I mean, listen, I'm as nutty as the next guy when it comes to conspiracy theories and stuff like that. But I mean, come on, we made it to the moon. I was a little kid back then. I
Well,
remember that.
I've seen so many analyses that prove that it would take more resources to fake a moon landing
Yeah,
back in
Yeah.
'68 than to actually go to the moon.
Well, see, that's the other thing is knowing what we did have for, for film technology and special. People don't realize how far we've come with special effects, and it would have easily, I mean, people have speculated, oh, Stanley Kubrick filmed the moon landing and it was all fake and everything like that. Bullshit. uh, Again, like I said, I remember so much of that. I remember getting woken up so that I could see, the actual landing. And my God, some of the stuff is just, I lived through an incredible time, and I know what happened and what didn't happen. It's like, come on.
Now, that doesn't mean we're not going to choose Capricorn 1 as a film at some point.
Oh my God, yeah, absolutely, yeah, absolutely, yes. Well, there's been a number of different ones. There's a what's the other one where the astronauts come back? I believe Nicole Kidman's in it, and they're not acting right, and her husband in particular is not acting right, and maybe he's the only one that comes back in that one. But at any rate, she starts realizing, yeah, this is something happened out there. But yeah, I love movies like that. I love good sci-fi anyway. So yes, we have to do some more sci-fi this
There
year.
are so many movies
Yeah.
we need to do.
So many. So, and I was all prepared to do it, and I won't even say the name of the movie that I was prepared to do, because I've been wanting to do a Western, and I had to shelve it. And I had to shelve it because poor David Lynch. But I'll go ahead and announce it now. I don't, not saying we're done because we're not,
Well, I
but
mean, let's wrap this up because the thing
okay.
is this is a perfect, the Kingsman is a perfect movie for our channel because you can't spoil it. The plot
No,
is irrelevant.
no, and actually we really, if we were trying to spoil the plot, there's so much more we could have said. Not that we ever try to spoil the plot, but
Right, right.
we're
But
gonna
there are
pick it
certain
apart.
movies where the plot is the movie is the plot.
Yeah,
And the plot is very singular and it usually hinges upon a climax.
yeah.
And this is not that movie.
No, it's not. And believe me, anybody who has never seen this movie, we did not spoil it for you. You can argue if we did, but I don't think we did. But no, this Dom picked this movie. I'm just gonna say right now, two thumbs up, absolutely, two thumbs up.
This is pure
And
action. It's fun.
yes, it's a lot of fun. There's laughs in the movie. There's Dom is definitely right. It's violent, but it's not violent in a mean way or a
No,
graphic way. If you're
it's
looking for
cartoon
graphic
violence.
violence, this ain't it. Yeah. So Dom, great pick. Truly great pick. It was very fun revisiting it, and there was a lot of stuff that I had forgotten. The other thing I was going to say is for next week. And by the way, the one I've got behind me is not the one. This one has a mix of all the different, maybe
Oh
the
yeah, that's all.
latest.
That's the whole franchise.
Yeah, that's the whole franchise. But at any rate, what I was going to say is the movie I'm picking for next week, because David Lynch has been lost, he's gone, and I'm picking Blue Velvet. It's one
Okay.
that it's one that might be. I don't think it's going to be hard to talk about because I think there's a lot going on in Blue Velvet, a lot of craziness going on in Blue Velvet. But there's David Lynch movies I like better than Blue Velvet.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like I kind of prefer both Lost Highway and Inland Empire.
Yeah, both of them are.
But
Like Lost Highway probably is my favorite.
mm,
Inland Empire is so good, and I found that chilling. Um,
but
it's
you're right. Blue Velvet's a classic. It's the first Lynch film I ever saw.
Well, that's the reason. That's the reason I think I'm picking it, is because for anyone that is not familiar with David Lynch, David Lynch was around. He did Eraserhead. He did a number of like kind of like almost like student project films that were like really strange, like small short films, low budget kind of offerings that people would go like, "Oh my God, this guy's insane." He's the way he puts together a film. And if you've never seen Eraserhead, It's
I wouldn't say you need to see it. It's
no,
I like it.
yeah, but it's definitely it's like a very weird film that from right from the get go. Um, David Lynch has offered us movies that are that make you go whoa, and
He colors
Blue.
outside the lines.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And Blue Velvet is definitely one of those. It's got a stellar cast. It's very strange. Dennis Hopper freaks the
It's
hell out of
so
it.
strange. It's almost a horror. You
Yeah,
could almost classify that as a horror.
yeah. So I had to pick that one because it definitely I had seen Eraserhead. I had seen a couple of small shorts and things like that he had done, but I wasn't familiar with his work. And then he comes out with Blue Velvet, and all of a sudden, everybody is getting blown away by David Lynch. He was being talked about and everywhere. So we lost him. It's a great loss because there'll never be another David Lynch. There'll be imitators. There are imitators, but nobody's David Lynch. And I'm happy when I see someone imitating his work because he left a great legacy and a legacy of cool, strange. So I had to pick that movie, and again, it's not my favorite, but it's certainly a damn good movie.
It's a fitting tribute.
Yeah. So that's next week. We'll be talking about Blue Velvet. So for anybody watching, check it out and be ready. If you've never seen it, just be prepared for something strange. But it's a lot of
Or
fun.
watch it before we talk about it because if you're into it's a good movie. If you're into good movies, you're not
Yeah.
going to be disappointed.
No, no, that was actually Blue Velvet was such a great movie. And I hate to keep going about it because we're going to talk about it next week. But what I was going to say was it was a college favorite. It took over every college in the country. There were kids in dorm rooms watching Blue Velvet. It was
I showed it to others in my dorm room. That's for
oh
damn
yeah,
sure.
it was just one of those movies. Everybody had that on VHS tape too. So, but anyway, yeah, I think we can wrap this one up, buddy.
Yep.
Um, but The Kingsman, great movie. Another one. If you haven't seen this, put it on, watch it. A lot of fun. If you like James Bond, if you like the Avengers, the old Avengers TV
I-
series,
If you like action, because
yeah,
again, this is nonstop action.
absolutely. So terrific choice, Dom. Uh, another one, another good one under the belt here. We had a good one to discuss. Fun talk. So I will see you next week,
I'll
and
see you, man.
yeah, take care. To everybody, please leave a like and thumbs up. See you guys next week.